Is card counting cheating? No. No, it's not. But first, let me give an explanation to what card counting actually is. Card counting is a way that you can give yourself a statistical advantage over the house in blackjack. Usually, the dealer in blackjack has a slightly higher chance at winning than you do, which is why casinos make profit and you don't. But card counting allows you to change those odds to be in your favour, and all you need is some very good memorisation skills and a tiny bit of maths. Card counting works in two parts. Part 1 is strategy. People have run simulations of millions upon millions of blackjack games, and they have cracked the statistically perfect strategy to playing the game. For example, if you have a 10 and a 5 and the dealer has a 6 as their up card, you should stand. You should end your turn every single time. There's no questions asked. Sometimes you'll get unlucky and lose from this spot anyway, but it doesn't matter. Mathematically speaking, this play gives you the highest odds at winning that hand, so you should play it. So now you have to memorize these plays for every possible hand that you or your dealer could possibly have, and you have to memorize it like it's the back of your hand. That's part 1 of card counting. Part 2 is it's the counting part. There's many ways to do this, but the most popular variant is this. Every time a card is dealt to the table, you assign it a number. Cards 2 through 6 are +1. Cards 7, 8 and 9 are 0, and 10, Jack, Queen, King and Ace are all -1. When you're card counting, you're essentially just keeping a score in your head. So if the very first hand of the game is this hypothetical hard 15 I had earlier where the dealer had a 5, I now have to tally up my score off of these cards. This leaves my count for the first hand at +1. But wait, there's more. If there are other players at the table, they've all got their own hands too, and I have to count their cards as well. Just because it's not in front of me doesn't mean it didn't come from the deck, and doesn't mean that it doesn't statistically affect what is or is not still left in the deck. So I have to count their cards as well as my own, as well as the dealer's. If the dude next to me has 2 6s, I have to count 2 more +1s in my head. Repeat this for every single hand that gets played whilst you're at the table, and don't miscount or forget your number a single time. All while playing the game with mathematically perfect strategy that you have memorized from a chart. Long story short, when your count is high, you know that there's less low value cards remaining, and when it's low, there's less high value cards remaining. My explanation is highly oversimplified, so if you want a detailed tutorial on how to card count, I'll leave a link in the description to a tutorial by a guy called Stephen Bridges that has much more detail than this video could possibly have. But the short version is that once you have this number in your head that's constantly changing after every hand, you can then eventually give yourself an advantage over the house. Now how big is that advantage, you might ask? Well, it's between approximately 0.5% and 5%. Yep. After all that ridiculous hard work, months or even years of training to get it all perfect, you're giving yourself, at most, 55 to 45 odds over the casino. And sometimes, if you're unlucky, the odds just never become in your favour, even if you do card count. But when the odds are in their favour, they can bet big, and that's when they'll make their money. But since the odds are only slightly in their favour, they can do everything right and still lose money in the short term. The way that card counters actually make a living is that they will play for hours and hours every day, and when the odds aren't in their favour, they'll bet small, and when they are, they'll bet big. Eventually, over long periods of time, over many casinos, they will make money and not lose it. But in the short term, they can do everything right and still lose, because it is still a numbers game. The reason that the odds are so small is because casinos don't play blackjack with just one single deck of cards. They shuffle multiple decks together to minimize the edge that card counters can give themselves over the course of a game. Card counting is not cheating. It's a skill that players learn that doesn't break any of the game's preset rules. They're using all of the information that the other players around them also have. They are just skillfully using that information in a way that other players can't. If that's cheating, then being good at Hearthstone is also cheating, because estimating what your opponent's next play will be and playing around that is just unfair, I guess. It's a skill that has to be honed, and doesn't use any extra info that the other players don't have. There's a reason that it's still legal to card count, and there's a reason that although you might get kicked out, you cannot be detained or arrested for card counting. Card counting's not cheating. It's just very skilled people making money out of the casinos, just like the casinos make money out of millions of people every day. Thanks for watching.